what happened in the Belgian Grand Prix weekend. Right, how are you all doing? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to XRS Plus, the official podcast for X Racing Series. I have received a lot of DMs after the OCC got released today. As of recording, it's Tuesday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record a little bit earlier than I wanted to. It's been a busy day. So this video is coming out on Wednesday, right before Division 5 takes to the track in Abu Dhabi for this finale. We have never, in XRS history, seen an OCC like this. There is so much to talk about. We need to get straight stuck in. I have a lot to talk about, and I do want to get involved. First of all, before we even start with Division 5, because there is content and championships to be won across the board, as we expect in a 6-round season. I didn't think it'd be this close. I have been a bit surprised myself about how close this season has been, even though it's half the length, even less than half the length of what we normally have for a full season. So let's start unpacking. First of all, before we even get going, I want to say an absolutely massive congratulations to every team principal on the grid, because I know as a team principal how stressful it can be, how difficult it can be to be getting drivers on the grid, to be supplying your team with strategies and setups and keeping them going and motivated. One, because it's a short season. Two, because the new game's out, so I appreciate that interests can disappear. Sounds to me like the new game's buggy as hell. Sounds like there's ghosting issues and there's yellow flag issues in qualifying. Like, as you can expect from Codemasters and EA, the game is an absolute mess, but it is out. People are wanting to play it, so I appreciate the team principals doing so well, keeping their drivers motivated and locked in for what is going to be easily the closest OCC finish we have ever had. It is between 5 teams, realistically, for this OCC. We've never seen more than 2, and it's teams that I would never have even thought have a say in this OCC fight. So let's begin. Where do we begin? I kind of want to start with the OCC, but that wouldn't make sense. So we're going to start with Division 5. Before we even get into Division 5, first of all, I have a bone to pick with certain man on the socials team. Key from Ferrari, assistant team principal from Ferrari, right? Not to be that guy, but when is it my turn to get driver of the day on the TikTok, right? So all I'm going to say, because you guys don't know this, you guys might not know this, I don't know. In the socials chat, they have a vote between the driver of the day for each division, and then they get like an overall vote, and that goes on the TikTok, right? I haven't even been nominated yet, right? I've qualified in the top 10 once, and I'm leading the championship. When is my nomination? I won't even take a winner. I don't have to win it. That's okay. I'm just happy to be here. But let me get nominated, guys. Like, come on. What more do I have to do? Right. That's done with my ego little rant there. Let's get stuck in. Key, we love you. Although Ferrari are kind of hooning right now. Let's start with Division 5. Before we go on any further. Division 5, where the top 3 was Worldwide, Karma, and Will. What a day for Red Bull. A team that has been lingering. They've been in the middle of the OCC, and the last 2 weeks they have done unbelievable. In these last 2 weeks, Red Bull, specifically in this division, with Will and with Worldwide, they have done fantastically well. In qualifying, what we saw a lot this week in qualifying, where it started dry and it started raining like 2 seconds into qualifying. I think it happened in Division 5, it happened in Division 2, it happened in Division 1 as well. I don't understand. Maybe the game has seen our calendar, seen all the tracks being in the desert, and said, you know what, right? We're just going to make chaos wherever we can for this 1 week that we could potentially have rain, or 2 weeks, I should say. In Monza, we saw a bit of rain as well. They've thrown it all at everyone, and 3 of the divisions was a one-shot quali. That is pretty crazy. So the qualifying was all messed up in a lot of these divisions, but Worldwide managed to get himself onto pole position. Karma right beside him in second. His favourite position, it seems to be where he finds himself very often this season. In the sprint, Worldwide ended up taking the win as well, with Karma in second, and the race finished exactly the same with that top 2. I think with Dom Parry out the division, who I think we can all agree was just a bit too quick. Looks like Karma and Worldwide have been the 2 that have stepped up. I think it's very unfortunate for Gordo, and I actually will give my driver loser to Gordo. Qualified P8, I mean, it's difficult when it's a one-shot quali. You really put under pressure to nail that one lap. In fact, even in my race in Division 2, I didn't know it was going to be one-shot quali. I didn't even know the rain was coming. It said it was going to be a dry session. It may well have been the same in Division 5, where he'd gone out on his first lap, expecting it to be staying the conditions it's going to be, and then it starts raining, and it's a real problem. Made his way up to 5th in the sprint, although did pick up a 3-second penalty, which dropped him down, I believe, 2 positions, 1 to Will and 1 to Oscar Dahl. And in the race, put on the wet tyres, as has been for the last 2 games, and I'm sure it'll be exactly the same in 26 when we get stuck in there. The wet tyres are completely useless. They are usable for the first 2 laps, but the second the dry line is formed, intermediates all the way, and there's absolutely no place for wets in the game. And Gordo unfortunately made that error, started on the blue rims, and he ended up retiring in the pits, completely gave up. And I mean, that shows almost a level of mentality, maybe from Gordo, that he did opt to go out. But that has pretty much thrown his championship challenge down the toilet. Currently, the gap is worldwide. Is Karma, I should say, leading the championship, 15 points to Worldwide and 20 to Gordo. It is pretty much wrapped up. Karma needs to have just a decent race in Abu Dhabi, and he will have it wrapped up. In his first full season, he will be winning the Division 5 championship, and I believe it is the final trophy that McLaren have never won, and it is. So if Karma wins Division 5 drivers, McLaren would have won one of every single trophy. It would be the second team to do it after Ferrari, who have won one of every trophy. Karma could make that come true for the Papaya team. So well done, Karma, if he's able to do it, but that's not right off Worldwide. That was an incredible race. And I have given my driver winners to Red Bull, but big shout out to Worldwide. That was dominating in the race. He's clearly got some incredible race pace. We saw last season, I remember seeing him last season, he was really strong in Belgium. I want to say he finished P2, if my memory is correct. But he ended up picking up the win today, and I shouldn't say today, this week, and definitely putting his name in the hat for the Championship Challenge. I knew he'd be a threat in the Championship. He's been strong last season. I knew he'd be a threat this season. So well done, Worldwide. I'm giving him the driver winner. And of course, being team principal as well, that extra bonus, because we're going to be talking a lot about Red Bull in this podcast, so we will get to them shortly. But a massive scoring division for them in Division 5, when points are so close, so required. Every point counts, and they have scored in the masses in Division 5. So well done. Well done to Red Bull. I'll give them driver winner, Gordo driver loser. Very unfortunate as well for a couple other drivers, one being Neek, who tried to stay out on the tyres, take them all the way to the end, as I think we saw from Division 2 last week in Monza. Didn't quite work out. It was right at the brink of tyre wear. Ava ended up picking up a puncher. Did manage to finish in the classified points, finished P15 and take a point home, but realistically Mercedes need to be scoring bigger than a point. We know Division 5 isn't their strongest division anyway, but when, like I said, an OCC finishes as close as it's going to, every single point matters, and a puncher is a pretty big issue, a pretty big situation to have. So unfortunate for Ava, but I'm going to give my driver loser to Gordo, because I think that might be Drivers' Championship out the window and a trophy gone for Aston Martin, who go trophyless another season. Right, we're going to move on to Division 4, where the top 3 was Vaxi, Side FX and Panda. Massive day for Mercedes. This is complete the flip side of what Red Bull did in Division 4, or Division 5 I should say. Mercedes almost matched in Division 4, and an absolutely standout performance from Vaxi. We've seen him in the past and how strong he's been in wet conditions, and he proved that once again in Spa, dominating the sprint, taking home the win as well in the feature race, and huge points to Mercedes after, I think it's fair to say, not an easy season for Vaxi. I think we expected him to be a lot more in this title fight. He's currently sat P6 and 27 points away from the lead. So it's mathematically possible that he could win it, but it's incredibly unlikely considering he's 6th. It's a hope and pray moment, but it is a very strong showing from Vaxi. I think if it were less desert races this season and more races where there is a potential for wet, I think maybe that would be his standout moment where there could be a chance for him to challenge for the title, but it just hasn't been a season. But I'm absolutely giving Mercedes driver winner and a massive shout out to Vaxi. I also want to, and I don't want to be too biased, I do hate talking about McLaren, but I do want to give it to Foxes as well. Qualified down in qualified down in P17 I should say. The two McLarens, the slowest on the wet runners by far in qualifying, although and even a difficult sprint, finishing in P14 and outside the points. From there though, ran the hard medium strategy, ran the alternate, and it absolutely worked in his favour, going up to 4th position in the race. Big points from McLaren in a division that's, fair to say, not their strongest. I should say not our strongest, but nevertheless good points for us to keep us in contention for this OCC. So well done, Foxes. But I am going to keep it to Mercedes because that was a huge performance from them both. We've seen Panda's consistency in the race has always been strong, and Vaxi showing his ability in the wet as well. My losers, unfortunately, is going to go to Williams, and we're going to talk a lot about Williams as well later on in this podcast because they are now in the OCC fight. Who could have seen that coming? Certainly not me. I want to in qualifying. It's great to see Haspu being competitive in XRS. Lasterdon, he knows what he's doing up at the front, but unfortunately, it wasn't all goodness up at the front. Lasterdon getting in an incident in the sprint, dropping him all the way down, and he managed to make it up to P11, but no points scored in the sprint. Haspu managed to finish P2 and behind Vaxi. And in the race, Haspu just picking up too many penalties, wasn't leaving space consistently going into Lacombe. I think it was 2 drivers. One was destroyed track. I can't remember what the other one was. But a couple of mistakes, just a couple of too many mistakes, picked up too many penalties, dropped him down to 8th. Probably should have won that race, but Vaxi was very, very strong, as I said earlier. Lasterdon recovered to 10th. Williams, the 2 Williams drivers, very, very, very strong in qualifying, but weren't able to match it in the race, and definitely points lost that they would have valued to have at the end of this weekend. So I'm going to give it to Williams on the basis of where they are in the OCC, the position they're in. Those points could have been really, really important. Before we move on, actually, sorry, I was about to move on to Division 3, but we haven't actually talked about the championship. I didn't even talk about the Division 5 championship. Hang on, hold the phone, come back, right? Karma, we talked about drivers. We haven't talked about constructors as well. I want to give my opinions on all. Constructors, McLaren are leading it by 1 point to Sauber. Unfortunately, without Don Parry, I think it's difficult to say, but they've lost their big edge. They've lost their star driver. Red Bull are 24 points behind. It's not impossible for them to scrap back, especially given their performance in Spa. But I am going to say I think McLaren will clinch it, but it won't be easy, and no mistakes can be made in the final race. As for Division 4, considering Paul Diver has done 3 races out of the 6, and he's still leading the championship by 16 points, is absolutely mental. In a longer season, this guy would never have seen a moment of daylight in that division longer than he would have needed to. But fortunately, he didn't get moved up for him. I thought he would go up with Don Parry, but he managed to sneak his way down. I think he will clean wipe it. All he has to do is show up. The gap between him and P2, which is Carl, well done, very good season from Carl, to be fair, is 16 points. So Carl would need a very strong race and hope that Paul Dive either doesn't show or makes a big, big mistake in the race. So I think it's unlikely that Paul Diver loses this. It will be another trophy for VCarb, so well done for Red Panda if he's able to clinch his first ever trophy as a team principal and put himself in a group of what will be 14 team principals who've ever won a trophy in XRS. He will also be scoring VCarb's, well, it will be 4th trophy. They're currently sat on 3 as the I've got to count now, 10, 9, 8, 7. The 7th, joint 7th or 6th most successful team in terms of trophies. Both Mercedes and VCarb both have 3. So it'll put them up a little bit and overtaking Alpine, who have 4 in the position ahead. Obviously, Red Panda seems very committed in his role. He's propelled VCarb to where they just couldn't get in their earlier seasons. They're consistently the midfield team. Unfortunately, have slipped down to 5th, but it's very, very close. The win for OCC is still very much on. So we'll see what else they can pick off in the season. But Red Panda's VCarb is definitely a force to be reckoned with for following seasons. So Paul Diver, I'm going to say, probably will hold on to the drivers. In terms of constructors, it's pretty much wrapped up already. VCarb 41 points ahead of Mercedes. I'm going to say VCarb clean up. We're going to move on to Division 3, where the top 3 was Legend of Toth, the CGM, and Oberwalf. First of all, and the only man who was able to clinch his championship before the final race, and it was in the one division I would have put money on that it wasn't going to be clinched before the final race. And I said this in the last, I think, 4 podcasts. Consistency wins over just raw pace. It is, you cannot say that Legend of Toth is, in terms of a driver, faster than Sem, CGM, or Dodo. Either of those 3 drivers realistically should have won the championship. It's going to sound very harsh because I've known Dodo for years. I'm cool with CGM. I don't know Bosmius that well, but I've raced with him for a long time. And I think it's fair to say, and I think they know it too, they are faster drivers than Legend of Toth. And I think that what we've seen in this Division 3 is very, very similar to what we saw from last season's Division 3 with myself, where the faster driver didn't win. You know what I mean? The fastest drivers didn't win. It came down to consistency. And when it's a 6-round season, that is amplified so much. You can look at the results before we get into driver winner and driver loser. Legend of Toth, his qualifying is a P7, 7, 6, 3, and 4. But from there, he was on the podium in every single race with a back-to-back wins, Spa and Monza, and his lowest result being a P7 in Bahrain. That's a massive consistency that he's able to hold on. And the Bahrain, because of a spin on his own, if he hadn't spun, he might have got this championship wrapped up even earlier. If you compare that to Sem, CGM, Bosmius, those three are consistently faster in qualifying. For Sem, P2, P3, P1, P2, P2. He hasn't been outside the top 3 in qualifying. CGM, I imagine, is pretty similar. P4, P1, P5, P1. Always challenging for pole. We can all remember that incredible lap he set around Saudi Arabia. Dodo has seen some inconsistencies in qualifying, but he got P1, P19 in Jeddah, P4, P1, and P5. These guys are setting the timings alight with qualifying. They'd be absolutely every week ahead of me and be challenging for pole in Division 2. But where the inconsistencies lie, and what we saw from even Dodo, who I've given driver loser, I thought Dodo would win this championship 100%. When we got into the season, when we actually got it going, we saw maybe inconsistencies with CGM, obviously maybe controller issues as well in Saudi Arabia. I thought once Dodo nails his consistency, it's clean, it's fine. He's currently 4th. I don't even think he's going to finish 2nd at this rate. In fact, he might not even finish 3rd. We'll see how he does in Abu Dhabi. Again, I think he got spun in, I want to say the sprint and the race. It was in turn 1 of either the sprint or the race, dropped him down to the back. Like, how is he finding his way to the back again? And I think there was a quote that Raven said to me many years ago where it was like, you're at least 1% at fault of every incident. And I think that's very fair. If you are getting straight-lined every week, there's a reason for it in the sense of you might feel like it's not your fault, like you're literally just getting straight-lined. But if it's a consistent thing and it's always you, then maybe there is a common denominator. And I mean, if you look at Sem, for example, I mean, I can't remember what happened to him in this race. I think he dropped it on his own going through Stavolo and dropped back and was having to come back on the mediums at the end of the second stint. If you look back to Monza, I think he got in a collision on lap 1 and couldn't make it back and finished P19 in the pits. I think back to Bahrain, he got a puncture really early. These kind of incidents are very unfortunate, but they're consistent with these 3 drivers. You know what I mean? You haven't seen Legend of Toth get plagued down with a P19 in the race. So it's interesting to see that kind of dynamic continue in Division 3, which is very much the most competitive and close division every season. That's what you expect from the middle division. Because even going into the final round, obviously, ignoring Legend of Toth, who's 27 points ahead and now it's not catchable. Oh, no, it is catchable technically. I mean, if Sem wins the race with the fastest lap, hang on. If he wins the race from pole and fastest lap, and Legend of Toth scores absolutely 0, technically it's mathematically possible. So has Legend of Toth really won it? That's the question that needs to be asked. But he pretty much has. If you look below there, from Sem downwards, I mean, it's 9 points to P4, 17 to P5, 26 to P6. It's so close in this division. But consistency won out. So well done, Legend of Toth, the first driver, if he's able to score a point, which I'm sure he's able to in Abu Dhabi. He will be the first driver to win in 2 different divisions. He obviously won in Alpine in last season's Division 4, and he's going to win again in season in Division 3. I meant to say Division 4 if I said season. Another trophy for Red Bull. Red Bull actually have 6 trophies to their name. They used to be very strong, had a couple of off moments. Obviously, with Keys Red Bull, they were really pushing for the OCC. We thought they would drop off this season with Worldwide. He has been straight on it, and we'll talk about Red Bull a lot more with the OCC later on in the predictions. With the OCC chat. But Red Bull maintaining their momentum despite not having Key and having Worldwide in the hot seat. Legend of Toth was a massive signing. It worked out perfectly. In terms of constructors, Williams are leading by 11 points to Red Bull. This is an exciting one. because Williams have never won a single trophy. This could be the one they do it. You've got a great lineup. Well done to Oberwalf for picking up that podium. A really, really strong race. In fact, actually, we're going to get to driver winner because my driver winner is Oberwalf. He had an incredible sprint. I'm not quite sure how he managed to do it. He qualified down in P14, even though his qualifying hasn't been so strong this season. Managed to get up to 5th in the sprint. Really, really solid 11 laps for him. And then maintained it in the race. Ended up finishing in 3rd with the podium. For those of you who remember Oberwalf back a few seasons ago, maybe in a different game, he was incredibly strong in Division 3. Pace has maybe come down for 2025. I really hope he gets some momentum and pace back for 26 game because Oberwalf is a very, very good driver. It's just qualifying has plagued him, certainly for the last 2 seasons, I think it's fair to say. But he is my driver winner. It's great sitting back on the podium and scoring massive points for Williams with a 3-4, Oberwalf leading the pair. I'm also going to give a shout out driver winner to Legend of Toth because you know I love a race merchant. I love a driver who isn't matching in qualifying, is watching the bankers of the drivers around him being, the best laps, the godly laps that they send, that they're able to do. But in the race, they're matching them every lap, not making any mistakes. I love drivers like that. So Legend of Toth, back-to-back wins and 4 in a row podiums. It's been a very, very, very good season and a very deserved Drivers' Championship if he is able to get it. In terms of constructors, I actually do think Williams will win it. I think Bosbis, maybe now that the Drivers' Championship pressure is a little bit off, now that it's gone, I think he can focus on constructors. And getting the first constructors for Williams, or getting the first trophy for Williams, is still a massive achievement for the pair of them. So I hope they're able to bring that home. I think that'll be great for Williams. So well done to the pair of them. Righty, we move on to Division 2, where the top 3 was your boy, Big Tiz in P1, then Jojo, and then Baba in P3. I feel awkward about it. You know what I mean? I say this every week. I do not like talking about myself on the podcast. I feel like it's very one-sided and egotistical, but I feel like I kind of have to at this point. First win in Division 2. Good stuff. Got a penalty along the way. My first penalty since Season 6. It's actually my 3rd ever penalty in XRS in 8 seasons. So that kind of sucks, I'll be honest. Unfortunately, with the ghosting, I pushed JB off on the run towards turn 1. A little bit of ghosting abuse from me, fair enough. Probably was a bad decision because I wasn't ghosted on his screen and he did just get yeeted off into the grass on his screen. So I do apologise, JB. He managed to make it back up to P6. So still a great result for Ferrari. But yeah, managed to cling on to the win, just about. Which is good. Got the strategy right with the hard medium. I think that was definitely the way to go. In Belgium, I love an alternate strategy. I love a hard medium. I love Bahrain for it as well, and all the other tracks that you can actually have a bit of fun with the strategy. And it's not just medium hard and pit as early as you can and just cling on to the hard to make sure they don't pop at the end of the race. It was a great race. It was a good fun race. I'm going to give my driver winner not to myself because I don't think I'll ever do that unless I literally cure cancer mid-race. Because I hate, I don't talk about myself. We are going to give it to Baba because what a reserve drive. I DM'd him and said, get in the car, mate. We need you. He said, calm. I said, these are my rivals. I need you to beat them so you take points off them. And he said, absolutely fine. I've got a quali ban, but I will sort you out, my boy. And he did just that. Started at the back, finished P3 with the right strategy, just like me. Imagine how straightforward this OCC would be if I had a teammate, but I don't have a teammate. So, as well, let's talk about constructors as well, right? Just real quick. Look, let's just talk about constructors real quick, right? I am second on my own, right? I just needed a teammate. You know what? Guys, people in chat, you know what I mean? If you're the same division as me next season, just hit me up. You know what I mean? Attend all the races, have a bit of fun, have a little bit of laugh in the engineering, you know. We'll have some fun. Just score a few points. We will get the constructors. Just score a few points for me, but no, I had to do it on my own. So Williams, well done. You've won the constructors, and there's nothing I can do about it because what can I do on my own? So there we go. Williams, well done. Lasserdon. I knew Lasserdon when we hired Lasserdon for this role as Williams TP. Obviously, he had a stint at VCARB and did very, very well. Picked up a trophy with VCARB, and that was back. And by the way, when people say won a trophy, this wasn't like, I just won a trophy, is like sign the fastest driver. When he won his trophy, it was when XRS was the most competitive in the sense of domination. This season, and certainly the last 2 seasons, because last season it was all colourful. Like, the Constructors was won by all different teams. Red Bull Div 1, Mercedes Div 2, McLaren Div 3, Alpine Div 4, Ferrari Div 5. And then the drivers was a mess as well of colours. Before then, it was just Red Bull and Ferrari. Before then, it was just Ferrari and McLaren. Before then, it was just McLaren. Like, it was domination. Before then, it was Haas and Ferrari, or Haas and McLaren. Then it was Haas and Ferrari. Then it was just Ferrari. This last 2 seasons have been incredibly colourful when it comes to the teams winning stuff. So when I say Lassinen won a trophy, that means a lot more, I feel, than winning a trophy now, because there was just domination from those big teams. So when Lassinen said, hit me up with a TP spot, last season or whenever it was, I knew he would cook, and he's absolutely cooked. He's in the fight for the OCC in Williams, who have never won anything, and he's got them their first trophy because he's going to get Division 2 Constructors. Pretty straightforward, so well done, Lassinen. Incredibly deserved. I'm very happy to see Williams doing so well. In terms of drivers, I've got a gap. I've got a bit of a gap. I've got a 14-point gap. I would need something to go horribly wrong for myself to not be able to do it. Power Twan has been consistently a better driver than me this season. I don't say better, but he's been a faster driver than me, and he's been plagued by bad luck in Saudi Arabia. He got a drive-through penalty and still finished 4th or something. In Qatar, there was a safety car outside his box window, and he had to do an extra stop or something and had to catch back up and still finish like right behind me. And then in this race, he's got absolutely bomber-clarted by a Red Bull going up the hill. Unfortunately, DNF'd. And still, I'm scared. I'm scared in Abu Dhabi. I'm scared that he's going to beat me, right? So if I finish 5th or higher, I've won the championship. If I finish 6th, then I need to hope that Power Twan doesn't win. And realistically, brother is going to be at the front, so I need to finish 5th or higher. So it's going to be close. I back myself. I think I can do it, but it's going to be juicy. It's going to be close. It's going to be good. And hopefully I can bring some points back from McLaren in this desperate time, because OCC is getting ever so close at the front. So I'll do my very best. Right, we're going to move on to the fastest division, Division 1. I was just thinking in that little interval when I pause it between each division, and then I go to the different results and get my notes up and whatever. I was just thinking, I'm feeling a lot more natural in these podcasts. I don't know about you guys. Like, I feel back to my old self when I'm doing XRS Plus. At the start, obviously, it's difficult because I haven't really... Like, I'm realistic. I'm just sat here at my desk talking at my phone, right? At my screen and at my monitor and just talking to myself, right? It's kind of weird. If someone knocks on my door and walks in, they're going to think I'm kind of crazy. But I feel like I'm starting to get used to it. It's being a bit more normal. I feel like I'm being a bit more myself in these podcasts, which is probably a bad thing. Let's move on. Division 1. I'm rambling. Division 1 with the top 3 was Sleek Mover, Callum Ansell, and Not Vibe. Very interesting race. A very controversial race in terms of penalties. Obviously, the 2 incidents between Casper and Callum Ansell hopping up in the stewards had everyone scratching their heads and arguing, but it did end up with Casper finishing P4 and just off the podium. Callum Ansell losing the win but finishing P2 and still scoring big points for VCARB. He's being a main man for VCARB. Could have been 3 in a row for him, but he ended up finishing in second with 2 firsts behind him in Qatar and Monza. It's been a very close Drivers' Championship. I want to say, first of all, driver winner, I'm going to say Sleek. I would have said Callum Ansell because what a great race it was from him. P3 in quali, the win in the sprint, and would have been the win in the race without the penalties. Sleek Mover, P3 in the sprint, in quali, sorry, I should say. Sorry, Callum Ansell qualified 6th. I got that wrong. Sleek Mover qualifying 3rd, 3rd in the sprint, and then ended up winning the race. Very, very consistent. And what people might have forgotten is Sleek Mover has won a Division 1 championship. He won it all the way back in season 3. Won it in season 3, driving for Haas. That was when Haas was good, when Haas was really good. He won it under George's Haas a long, long time ago. And it's great to see him finding his pace back and being really, really good and fighting for this Drivers' Championship. I love seeing old, kind of more OG drivers in XRS being up at the front, and I think he's definitely been under the radar. People haven't really been talking about him, and maybe the fact that they won in XRS when he won his championship, it wasn't an easy one, and he did it in a very, very competitive XRS, beating Techaby to that Drivers' Championship. So great to see him in the fight. I think Callum Ansell has been incredibly consistent this season, constantly up at the front. If we look at the Drivers' Championship now, Callum Ansell is leading by 16 points to Sleek Mover and then Jaipo. I am going to give Driver Loser, and it seems a bit harsh to give it to Jaipo. I am going to give it to him on the basis that that could have been a much better race for him. Jaipo has been, for me, the most surprising driver this season. His pace, coming from Division 2, and fair enough, I didn't watch that much Division 2 last season, fine. But I did not expect him to go from that jump, Division 2, the top of Division 2 to Division 1. And pretty consistently the fastest, or one of the fastest every single week, up at the front of Division 1. I was quietly rooting for him in the sense that I don't really want Mercedes to do well, because screw Mercedes. But to see a driver come up and just be instantly so competitive and so natural in a higher division, it's really great to see. Qualified 4th, very solid qualifying. Ended up dropping down in the sprint to 13th. He ended up getting spun. I'm not sure if that was the race or qualifying. I think it was the race, and then also spun in the pit lane, so a double no-no for him. But ended up making his way back. Started on the mediums, made up like 10 positions in 5 corners, charging through the field. Unfortunately, started on the medium hard, which isn't ideal strategy. In Bahrain, I suppose he tried it because starting at the back, you've got to try something to get to the front. It did end up working to an extent. He ended up finishing 7th as his tyres began to die behind his teammate Neb Restroom. I'm giving him Driver Loser on the basis that obviously the spin I don't think was his fault. He did take someone out and pick up a 10-second penalty. I think it was a 10 or a 5-second penalty going up the hill. I believe it was Mafio. So silly mistake there. Obviously another silly mistake being speeding in the pit lane. Plus getting spun, and it was just a horrible weekend. I think Jaipo, I don't want to say he deserved this championship, but he looked like he was in a really good spot for it. And I think it's a bit of a tall ask now. The gap between him and Callum Ansell is 24 points. We need Ansell to have an absolutely horrid Abu Dhabi. So unlucky for him. I'm going to give him Driver Loser. Driver Winner I'm going to give to Sleek. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, I think Callum Ansell just has to do okay, and he's been incredible all season, so I think he'll wrap it up in Abu Dhabi. In terms of Constructors, maybe a different story though. Mercedes leading by 4 points to Williams, 9 points to McLaren, 16 points to VCarb. It is going to go any of 4 ways. It might sound biased. Do I give it to McLaren? Oof. This is interesting, actually. Hang on. So Mercedes have Jaipo and Neb. Jaipo being their main man. Williams have Sleek. Oh, and Thallo. Thallo's good, but he's a little inconsistent. McLaren have no Axel this week. They're going to have Ransdale and Casper. And VCarb have Callum Ansell, but they are the furthest away in points. They're 16 points behind. There's a lot of points. Who's their second driver? Their second driver is Corruption. Yeah, okay, VCarb aren't going to win it. I'm going to say I think Mercedes might do it, you know. And that would be really impressive because Mercedes won the Constructors last season in Division 2 with the exact same lineup. To move up and win it again in the higher division is incredible. That is really, really, really impressive. So you know what? I'm going to quietly root for Mercedes in Division 1. And I'm going to say Mercedes are going to win it because that would be a really, really exciting thing to say. But I do think Williams are going to be their main issue because Thallo, when he's not kind of all over the place, he is very, very quick. And Sleek has been incredibly consistent. They've got a good pairing. They've known each other for years, I know. So that's going to be an interesting little battle. McLaren are not too far behind either. So I'm going to lean towards Mercedes, but it's going to be very, very close for those 3 teams. Right, we're going to move on to the OCC before we end this little broadcast. First of all, unfortunate, we say farewell to Gone to the Moon, the Alpine team principal. I think we all saw it coming after what has been very, very, very easily been the worst performance we've ever seen from any team in any OCC ever. Alpine, who are currently on 51 points in the OCC. And you might be thinking, why are they on 51 points? Well, they took a 125 point deduction. Oh, well, Tiro, where would they be with the 125 point deduction added on? They'd still be last. And they'd still be last by quite a long way because the next team is Haas with 248 points. Alpine have had an absolute mare of a season after being on a very, very good trajectory. Gone to the Moon, a bit like Lasserdon, has had experience as a TP. Previously, he was TP of Williams. Is actually, before this season ends, because obviously Lasserdon will be taking it realistically, Gone to the Moon is the most successful Williams team principal. with his highest finish in the OCC being P5 back in season 4, but winning no trophies. Obviously, Lasserdon, and honestly, he was on the trajectory of doing it again. Currently, the most successful team principal in Alpine is Jay Snow. He finished second back in season 4. Since then, Gone to the Moon came to the role in season 5, finished P7 again, moved up to P5. They were a threat to McLaren and Mercedes last season. So you can see, I mean, as the two leading teams in the OCC, following that trajectory, they should have been absolutely on our tail. And in this OCC fight, they are nowhere near it this season, not by any means. And unfortunately, that has led to Gone to the Moon dropping the role. He could have definitely been the second driver, I should say, after Mill, actually. Second team principal to be the best team principal statistically of 2 teams. Instead, I think he's going to lose both of his because he didn't manage to do Alpine. And I think Lasserdon's going to nab his Williams role, his Williams record there. It sucks to see, but we thank Gone to the Moon for everything he's done for Alpine and for Williams, in fact, pushing their team up. But unfortunately, yeah, we're going to have a big conversation in the admin team about Williams because they're currently got 14 mil in the bank. They're going to get absolutely niche prize money, and all their drivers' contracts run out, and I can bet you none of them are looking to re-sign that paper. So whoever takes the new Alpine role, if anyone's listening and thinks, you know what, I want to give myself a challenge here, I think I can do it. I think I can take an Alpine role, team principal. Avi will be talking about me every single week on the podcast because you bet I'm going to be predicting you dead last in the OCC next season. I want a challenge. I want to get mentioned. I want to get lots of compliments. Take that Alpine role. Boys, sign up because the sign-ups will be coming out very, very shortly. In fact, they might already be out by the time this podcast comes out tomorrow. I'm very... I don't want to say excited because that's a lie. I'm interested to see what is going to be Alpine next season, what shape they're going to come in, because right now the shape is a flat puddle of shit on the floor. But we do thank Gone to the Moon. An unfortunate mistake, but before then he was cooking as a TP, and he's been cooking for a long, long time. No other news in terms of OCC stuff. Let's get straight onto it, to the points. Let's just all take a minute to look at that OCC and think, what on earth, in the land of XRS is going on with those numbers? How is it so close in the final round? How is that even remotely that close? And I think it goes back to what I said before, right? XRS generally has been quite dominated by a few teams. At the very start it was Ferrari. Ferrari's first competition was Haas. When Haas beat them, McLaren came through, and McLaren had that little domination. Between season 3 and season 5, McLaren were just so strong, completely untouchable. Season 6 rolled around, Ferrari came back fighting, and Red Bull in a brand new form with Key, and they led the charge for those two teams. And now it's been an interesting one. Key leaving Red Bull and going to Ferrari, and then Ferrari flopping off the face of the earth this season. McLaren having to make a bit of a comeback. Mercedes, obviously, with a new team principal, newer team principal with Mill. There wasn't really a top team, if that makes sense. There was always in the past, the baton was handed on to the next team, right, to challenge for that OCC. This was the first time where it was a pretty much clean sheet. A very random season to have a clean sheet, I will say. It all just kind of coincided at the same time. Not only did it happen to be a random season, it wasn't like the start of a new game, but it was also the season where there was 6 races, and that is why the championship is so close. Now, it comes down to 5 teams, realistically. I can't believe it comes down to 5 teams, but it does come down to 5 teams. The gap between McLaren in first and VCARB in 5th is 68 points. Any of those 5 teams, McLaren, Mercedes, Williams, Red Bull, and VCARB could win it. McLaren have won 3 OCCs in their time. Mercedes, Williams, Red Bull, and VCARB have won absolutely niche. They've won 0 OCCs. This could get very, very, very interesting. Let's not forget, right? Not only have Williams not won an OCC, they've actually not won anything ever. So that also puts a massive congratulations to Lasserdon. Red Bull, obviously with Key leaving, everyone expected them to drop to the midfield, and Worldwide said absolutely not, hold my beer, and locked in and just came out of absolutely nowhere in the second half of the season and is now in the OCC fight. VCARB, who was laughed at in general chat for being predicted so high in Red Panda's predictions, is now genuinely a title fighting threat. and everyone knew Finley Millard is the inevitable. He is always going to be having a nose, sniffing around any trophy he can grab put his hands on, and he is definitely in the fight for the OCC. A lot more talk has been about McLaren and Mercedes. I genuinely think that one of the other three teams could just win it, and it would just come out of nowhere for McLaren and Mercedes' sake. Where to go with it? For team winner this season, for this weekend, I'm going to give it to Red Bull. And for team loser, I'm going to give it to VCARB, because VCARB have lost a lot of ground this weekend, because they were, going into this weekend, I want to say second. But realistically, the question you guys are all asking me, right, who do I think is going to win it? Because realistically, my opinion matters more than most things. So, who do I think is going to win? Well, looking at the lineups, looking at the weaknesses, I think that Mercedes are going to win it. I think Mercedes are going to win it. I think that the gap is currently 3 points. How has that even happened, right? The gap's never been 3 points on the first round, and we're 6 weeks into this season. I think Mercedes are going to win it. I think Williams might finish second. I think McLaren are going to slip to third. This is not me losing faith in the team, but I think McLaren have more underlying issues than the other teams do in terms of not having a Division 2 driver and having weaker divisions in certain places. Mercedes are very strong across the board. Their weakest, I think it's fair to say, is probably Division 5, whereas McLaren have an okay Division 3 and 4, and then one driver in Division 2. So that's just a massive, massive hole in the armour. In terms of Williams, genuinely, Williams are strong across the board. Maybe Division 5. I think Division 5 is a weakness. Division 4 is inconsistent. 3, 2, and 1 are a genuine threat to society. Like, they are very, very strong. Red Bull, again, I mean, a bit inconsistent in Division 2, but just very strong across the board. And VCARB, let's have a look at VCARB. VCARB, again, Division 5, bit of a weakness. And McLaren need to gain points in Division 5, realistically. It all comes down to karma. And Keenan, we're relying on Keenan to do this. Oh my god. VCARB, let's look at VCARB. Just strong across the board. Division 4 obviously being their main point scoring. But, I mean, Division 1, just with Callum alone, is incredibly strong. I think that Mercedes are going to win it. But it's going to be close either or way. If you spend a little time looking at the bottom half, I cannot believe... So I've blown my nose there. I cannot believe that for the first time ever, there's a 5-way type for the OCC. And that one season is a 5-way fight. None of those 5 teams are Ferrari. Ferrari have never finished outside the top 3 in the OCC, and this season they might genuinely finish 7th. I shouldn't say I think. I know that Ferrari realistically is 6th is the best result they're going to get, and they're up against Sauber with Scarata, brand new season, brand new team principal for the team, and he is absolutely cooking. He's going to get Sauber's best result since they became Sauber. Right, that's 2 years, boys. Since the last time they finished better than P6 was P5 in Season 2. Season 2 was 3 years ago. Can you think about how much has happened? Was it 3 years ago or is it 2.5? 2.5 years ago. How much has happened in 2.5 years? And Scarata has come into this team and said, nope, I will lock in for you. And he's allowed to beat Ferrari. Who do I think is going to win between Ferrari and Sauber? I think Ferrari will clinch it. I think Ferrari might get them. But if Sauber do it, well done. I think Aston Martin, Haas, and Alpine will stay where they are, P8, P9, P10. Going into the season, we knew those 3 were going to be the weakest teams. I think Sauber were very overlooked. They have done incredibly well this season. But my standout performer is definitely Williams. I mean, oh my god, Williams. How have Williams come out of nowhere and become a serious team? And this is what I mean when I said that there isn't a domination. There hasn't been a passing the baton between teams. There's been a blank canvas. And I think this season is opening up the doors to where the domination is going to lie next season. Because prize money is a big thing. Finishing first versus finishing 5th is a lot of money. There's a lot of pulling power as well. If you show potential drivers, look at me, I finished first in such a close season as opposed to finishing 5th and losing your respective fight. I think it's going to have a lot of momentum involved in the driver that wins this fight and finishes first versus the team that ends up losing it and finishing fifth. So it's going to be a very, very interesting one. And I think that certainly the top 3 teams in this OCC are going to be chasing more and more trophies going into the new game, because it's a massive momentum puller to be winning an OCC. There we go. That is my final predictions. That is my final talk on XRS Plus. The next time you lot hear from me, unless I get on comms, which I'm really hoping to get on comms because I'm on a PC now, so I can do the little hotkeys. I can do the little ooh, and jump to P7 instead of having to spam my RT button on my controller, flicking through all the drivers. You don't have to listen to that anymore. I can just flick to the drive. I can just press to the buttons you want me to be listening to or watching. This will be the last time you hear my voice until an OCC is crowned, until Division 2 Drivers is crowned, and all the questions we are wondering will be answered. I will hopefully be doing a prediction reaction at the end of the season with Ransdale, Mill, and Liam 70v3, who predicted the start of the season with me. And we'll be moving on to the new game. Very, very exciting things happening. But for now, thank you very much, everybody, and I will talk to you all very soon. Have a good one.